Okay, so we're going to do question 3 in tutorial 10. So this is a question about externality. And in this specific question, it is about negative externality. Okay. So we are given a market demand P equal to 200 minus 2Q and a social and a market supply. Okay, with P equal to 20 plus Q. Now, unfortunately, the production of the batteries involve a negative external cost, so that the marginal social cost of production is P equal to 20 plus 2Q. Okay, so the supply curve over here is basically the supply by the firm, and this is basically the marginal private cost. Okay. So the firm is only taking into account its private costs, and this is how much it costs the firm to produce, and so therefore this is the price that the firm is charging the consumer, and this is how much they're willing to supply to the market following that price. Okay, so it's following is a marginal private cost. However, socially, the marginal social cost, which is the cost taking into account the fact that the production of the battery is going to pollute the air and or creating pollution to the water and stuff, and so that it's creating some negative externality to the society, and so therefore the marginal social cost of the production is basically P equal to 20 plus 2Q. Okay, so as you can see, the marginal social cost is higher than the marginal private cost because it's taken into account the external costs that it is imposing to the society that the firm doesn't take into account. Okay. All right, so part A of the question asking you to find a competitive market output and market price. So the competitive level is basically the level that doesn't take into account the social costs. Okay, so it's only the amount that the firm is willing to supply to the market. So competitive equilibrium is where demand equal to supply. Okay, so it's just going to be so if you equate the price to the marginal private cost, then you'll find the equilibrium. Okay, so I got 200 minus 2Q equal to 20 plus Q. And so I'm solving this equation, I get 180 equal to 3Q. And so therefore Q is going to be equal to 60. All right, so therefore the price in the market is going to be equal to, if you substitute back into either the supply or the private or the demand curve, it is going to give you P equal to 20 plus 60, which is equal to 80. Okay, so this is the market price and the market output in equilibrium. Now, so part B asking you to find a socially optimal level of output. So socially optimal equilibrium. Okay, so now we have to take into account the social costs. Okay, so we not only take into account the cost for the firm, but we also take into account the external costs that the production of the battery is going to create to the society. Okay, so what we do is we equate the price to the marginal social costs. Okay, so so we got 200 minus 2Q, and we want to equate that to 20 plus 2Q. So therefore we get 180 plus 4Q, and so therefore Q is going to be 45. Okay. All right. So in this case, the price is going to be equal to either substitute back into the demand curve or the marginal social cost curve. You'll find that the price 200 minus 2 times 45, so that is 110. Okay, so as you can see, without taking into account the negative externality, the firm is actually producing more than what it should be producing. Okay, so it's only taken into account its cost. It doesn't take into account the fact that its production is creating cost to the society as well. So therefore, it's overproduced. Okay, compared to the socially optimal level. Um, all right, so has he asking you to suggest a text that would correct the externality and indicate a net weight loss if the externality is not dealt with? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to draw a diagram, and from there it's going to be easier for us to see how the government can impose a tax in order to correct the externality to the society. Okay, so I got a dollar here, I got a quantity Q over here, and I got zero over here. So I want to draw the demand curve first, where P equal to 200 minus 2Q. That's the demand curve. Okay, so as you can see, this is having a vertical intercept of 200 and a horizontal intercept of 100. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. I will just have a line like this. Okay, so it's 100 over here for the horizontal, and it's 200 over here for the vertical. Okay, so this is my demand curve. So now next thing I want to draw the supply curve, which is P equal to 20 plus Q. Okay, so as you can see, this is having a vertical intercept of 20 and a slope of 1. Okay, so it's just going to be a straight line going all the way up like this with a vertical intercept of 20, which is here. Okay, so this is my supply or the marginal private cost curve. Okay, so the original equilibrium is just here. Where the firm is producing 60 units of output, and the price in the market is 80. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is to draw the socially optimal level of output. Sorry, the socially optimal supply curve, which is the marginal social cost curve. Okay, so P equal to 20 plus 2Q. So again, vertical intercept is 20 and the slope is 2. So basically it's going to be a steeper line than the marginal private cost curve. Okay, so it's going to be something like this. And this is the marginal social cost curve. All right, so as you can see, it's going to cut it's going to cut the demand curve at this quantity over here. So this is going to be the quantity 45. Okay, and this is going to be the socially optimal level of price, which is 110. All right, so what sort of tax the government would be able to impose in order to for the society or for the firm to be producing at 45 units of output instead of 60? Okay, so as you can see, if the government can impose a specific tax that is equal to the value of the externality at the optimal level of output 45. So as you can see at the quantity 45, this 110 is the marginal social cost, And if you go to the marginal private cost curve, this point over here is going to be the value of the marginal private cost. Okay, so if I substitute the 45, if I substitute quantity Q, okay, equal to 45 into the marginal private cost curve, then I get marginal private cost is equal to 20 plus Q, which is 45, and so that is going to be 65. Okay, so over here is 65. All right. So if I can impose a tax that is going to be equal to the difference between the marginal social cost and the marginal private cost at this quantity 45, then that is going to solve my problem. Okay, so if I can impose a tax to the firm, okay, such that the supply curve is going to be shifted all the way up. Yes, this point here, module. Okay, we're gonna make it parallel. All right. Okay, so if I impose a tax which is basically exactly equal to the value of the external video over here, which is the gap over here, okay? So that is the difference between 110 and 65, okay? So basically the idea is that at the optimal level of output 45, it's cost the society 110 per unit. However, it's only cost the firm 65. So now if I can impose a tax which is equal to the difference between these costs onto the firm, such that the firm is going to incur a cost of 110, then it's going to be producing at a quantity 45. Okay, so therefore, okay, so if the government can imposes a tax on the firm, okay, such that at the quantity equal to 45, the marginal private cost for the firm is going to be equal to 110. Okay, then the firm is going to produce at a quantity equal to 45. Okay. So we know that at quantity equal to 45, marginal private cost for the firm at the moment is already 65. Okay. So in order for marginal cost for the firm equal to 110, then the government should impose a tax. Okay, so impose a specific tax of 110 minus 65, And so that is going to be equal to 45. Okay? All right. Okay, so therefore it's going to increase the firm marginal cost from 65 plus 45 is going to be equal to 110. And so therefore it's going to shift the supply curve up. Okay, so the gap over here is basically 45. Okay, so the tax is equal to 45 per unit. Okay, so it's shift the supply curve up all the way to S dash. Okay, and so at the new supply curve, the firm is going to be the supply curve is going to cut the demand curve at this competitive level in equilibrium, which is equal to 45, and it's going to cost the firm 110 per unit, and that is exactly what we want to happen. Okay, we want the firm to be producing 45 instead of 60, and so by increasing the cost per unit for the firm, it's going to get the firm to produce less. Okay. All right. So therefore, okay. So what is the deadweight loss if there is no tax imposed? Now, so as you can see over here, if there isn't any okay, so what I do is I'm going to, okay, so the marginal private cost for the firm, which is marginal cost private firm dash, is now going to be equal to the original marginal cost, okay, plus the $45 of tax. Okay, so the original marginal cost for the firm is penny plus Q, and now it's plus 45, so that becomes 65 plus Q, okay? Okay, so in competitive equilibrium, we just have to equate the marginal cost to the demand curve, okay, so to the demand, to the price. And so therefore 65 plus Q, we want to equate that to the demand curve, which is 200 minus 2Q. And so therefore we get 3Q equal to 200 minus 65, which is 135. And so therefore Q is going to be equal to 45, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so I said Q dash equal to 45. So by increasing the marginal cost, the marginal private cost for the firm by $45, then effectively we are going to force the firm to produce 45 units in equilibrium in order to be at the socially level that the government would want the firm to produce. Okay. So therefore, if the firm is not paying any tax, what is going to be the deadweight loss created in the economy? So we know that this amount output is socially level, so it's socially optimal. Okay, so by producing 60 units of output, if we do not impose any tax on the firm is basically overproduced. Okay, it's producing too much. So the deadweight loss is going to be the difference, the whole amount output from 45 to 60, where you can see that if it's going to be okay, so from 45 to 60, now the marginal social cost, if I go all the way up over here, okay, so as you can see from 45 to 60, the marginal social cost is higher than the demand curve. Okay, so as you can see here. Right, so it's basically cost the firm or cost the society more to produce these 15 units, okay, then it benefit the consumers, okay. So so the marginal benefit or whatever the consumers are willing to pay for these extra 15 units is lower than its cost to society to produce. As you can see, the marginal social cost line is above the demand line. Okay, so therefore the triangle over here, which is the difference between the area above the demand curve and below the marginal social cost curve, between the quantity 60 and 45 is going to be the deadweight loss for the society if the tax is not imposed. So it's going to be the little triangle over here. Okay. So as you can see, the area below the marginal social cost above the demand. So these units from 45 to 60 is actually having more social cost than its benefit to the consumer. And that is why it's creating a deadweight loss in the economy. Okay, so right, so deadweight loss over here is just the triangle. Okay, below the marginal social cost curve, above the demand curve. Okay, between Q equal to 45 and Q equal to 60. Okay, so these extra 15 units are the one who that shouldn't be produced because it costs society more than whatever it's benefit the consumers. Okay, so therefore the value of the deadweight loss is just half. So to calculate the value of the triangle, it's just going to be half of the height, which is the distance over here, which is the 60 minus 45 times times the base. Okay, so the height is 60 minus 45. And what is the value of the base? Okay, so to calculate the values of the base, we know that at 60, this is equal to 80. And if you go all the way up to the marginal social cost to calculate the value at this point over here, okay, so we know that at 60, marginal social cost is equal to 20 plus 2Q. So it's 120, so that's 140. Okay, so it's 140 over here. All right, so the base is basically the difference between 140, which is the marginal social cost, and the demand, which is 80. Okay, so it's 140 minus 80. So that's a 60. And so the deadweight loss in this case is 60 times 15 divided by 2, and that will go into you 450. Okay? So this is the deadweight loss that is going to be incurred in the economy if the government doesn't impose any tax to correct the externality.